All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming to my talk entitled You Are the Main Thread, Multiplying Your Productivity with Agents. I know there's a lot of really good talks right at this hour, so I appreciate that you all came to my talk. So, just a little introduction. My name's Nelson Osacky. I'm a senior software engineer at Sentry, and I went in and I checked how many droidcons I've been in. This is my 16th droidcon presentation. So, just to get started, get a feel for the audience, how many people here use AI tools in their day-to-day dev jobs? Okay, I see a good amount of people. And of those people, how many use tools like Cursor or Firebender that are integrated into your IDE as opposed to, okay, cool. And then how many people use tools that are just chatbots in the terminal like Claude Code or OpenAI Codex? Okay, I see 1, 2 people. Cool. All right, so before I get started, I want to introduce the concept of a lazy developer. And I don't just mean not doing any work. What I mean is this quote, I choose a lazy person to do a hard job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. This is attributed often to Bill Gates, but he's actually not the one who originally said this, but it's, there's a whole history here. I'm not here to go on the history of this quote. Okay, so before I get started, I wanted to kind of give a little backstory into my career and how I got to this point where I'm just talking about AI in front of a bunch of Android engineers. So I used to be an Android dev. I've worked at companies like Square, SoundCloud, and other companies you might have heard of. And then after those, I worked at Gradle, where I loved build tools. I love optimizing builds. And then after I left Gradle, I worked at Emerge Tools. And Emerge Tools, we build tools like size analysis, build distribution, AI code deletion, basically tools for mobile developers, Android devs, iOS devs. And that was the first time I switched to being kind of a backend engineer. Everything was written in TypeScript, and I really had to use a lot of AI help to help me write the code because I had never written TypeScript before. I also spent a lot of time in the time I had between my jobs to do some TypeScript tutorials, learn how it works. And then, of course, there was some Gradle integration at Emerge. But yeah, I love writing Gradle code. So basically and AI is really bad at Gradle, I learned. So basically all the Gradle code I write is handcrafted, farm-to-table, artisanal Gradle code. But then one day, we suddenly got acquired by Sentry. And Sentry is mostly Python and Rust. And so that's when I was like, okay, I have to learn languages again. But yeah, before I get into that story, I just want to quickly explain what Sentry is. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you haven't. So it's a crash reporting tool and monitoring. Think Crashlytics, but way better. We have better dashboards, more specific alerts, better monitoring. We have things called session replays, unstructured log searching, custom spans for performance monitoring. We can trace your requests from your backend to your front end. And we also have some AI tools like the Sentry MCP and AI Debugger. I'm not here to talk about Sentry the whole time, but I just want to explain what the company is, what we do. And then we also have really good AI tools for all our engineers. So one day, I was having a one-on-one with my manager. And essentially, he was asking me what AI tools I was using. And I said, well, yeah, I love Cursor. I really started using Cursor when I first started at Emerge and continued doing that at Sentry. And he's like, actually, you should use Claude because it's the best. And so Claude, if you haven't used it, it's just a text box. It's not an IDE. You don't really have an overview of the code. And so I was really skeptical, right? If a manager is telling you how to do your job, you should naturally be very skeptical. And in fact, he went even further and he said, our team should be in the top Claude users at Sentry. And he took a screenshot of our dashboard of Claude and posted it in our chat and said, everyone, in terms of number of tokens used per month, we should be all over this on the top of the dashboard. So naturally, like any good engineer, I love a good challenge. And I also am very familiar with Goodhart's law. If you aren't familiar with Goodhart's law, it's basically when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. So yeah, this is like back in the days, right? They used to measure developers based on number of lines of code. So naturally, what are you going to do? Write lots of long tests, comments, code that doesn't do anything. So in this case, yeah, if we're going to measure devs based on Claude usage, I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do. So challenge accepted. So yeah, this talk is going to be a lot about Claude workflows, AI workflows, but I think these topics and ideas can apply to any sort of development workflow, whether you're back end or front end. And when I originally wanted to have this talk, I originally titled it like Becoming a Backend Developer Using AI Tools. And that was when I submitted in like April. But I think so many things have changed in the last, 5, 6 months. Even AI tools, right? I'm saying Claude is the best today. Tomorrow, Codex is the best. The next day, Cursor is the best. But eventually, all these tools, I believe, are going to have essentially the same tools, the same, features. Like they all kind of converge, copy each other's features. So yeah, I might say some Claude-specific things, but I assume Codex is going to have the same feature. Cursor is going to have the same feature in the future. So yeah, don't worry about it. So yeah, just to introduce you, Claude, it's a terminal. You just type in the terminal, and it gives you an answer. All right, so tip number 1 on how to use the most tokens as possible, use ultrathink. So ultrathink is basically, it tells Claude to think harder about the problem. There's some trade-offs, right? It's slower, and it can give you a better answer, but it, is slower. It's also obviously not good for the environment. I'm not going to get into all the costs of AI and environmental costs, but I took the train here, so I got a little goodwill from the environment, so it's all okay. But on the other hand, if you do use ultrathink, it's really important, I find, to ask it for simple solutions. When you do use ultrathink, it tends to come up with overly complicated solutions, and it over-engineers your code. You end up with just useless things and over-architected solutions. My next tip is write a good agents file. You can have Claude write your agents file for you, but you can also explain things that it really doesn't know. It's honestly like a good README for any developer. And in it, you should say like any counterintuitive pieces of code you might have in your code base. You can tell it, how to build your code base, how to write tests in your code base. You can tell it, okay, before you commit any code, run spotless apply to format the code properly. Or you can tell it, your specific formatter rules or however your code base is set up. If you have 2 different patterns in your code base, let's say you're using coroutines and RxJava, you can tell it in your agents.md file, write all the new code in coroutines. RxJava is legacy. Because it's just going to copy whatever patterns it sees. It might pick one or the other. So tip number 4 is double check everything. AI lies all the time. I'll give you a couple examples. So you should really read and reread all the code that AI writes. Make sure the test is real. So I've had a couple of instances where AI just writes me a test that doesn't test anything. It's like sending fake data against a fake backend, and then doesn't do anything. Clean up the code after it, read every line, cut out the crap. Sometimes it writes useless comments. Get rid of all of that. Okay, so that's a little bit about general comments, and I'm going to get into specific tips on implementing features using AI. So writing a client for the backend. This is a tip that I used when I was writing basically the CLI for Sentry. So I would tell AI, hey, this is the backend code base. It's located in this directory. Look at it and tell me how the API works. And then I would ask it to implement the front-end code. In this case, it was a Sentry CLI, which is a tool to upload builds and do a bunch of other stuff for Sentry, and tell it to build the front-end based on the backend. You can use this also for Android apps, right? If you don't know how the backend works, tell it, hey, this is where the backend code is located. Build the front-end to work for that backend. Another example is we had in the Android Gradle plugin, Sentry Android Gradle plugin, we have a little Python server that is basically an integration test. And so I asked it to write this Python server based on what it could find in the backend, basically rebuild a little upload mock endpoint, and that was an integration test for the CLI. So another tip is using AI to rewrite code. So like I said before, emerge was all TypeScript, Sentry is all Python, and we're rewriting all the features again into the Sentry code base. And so one way you can do this is you can ask AI, hey, examine the code. So the way we did this was we checked in our old code into the new code base, really like our entire repository. And then in our agents.md file, we said, hey, this is the old code base. Use it as a reference base for the new features. We don't want, don't add any code in there. Just use it as a reference. And then, for example, one feature I added was the duplicate file analysis that was already in the merge code base. I said, hey, examine the duplicate file analysis in the merge code base to understand how it works. Then I'd read that analysis, say, hey, that's how it works, and make any corrections as needed. And then I would say, hey, write the duplicate file analysis feature based on the merge implementation into the Sentry code base. Okay, so testing, right? After you write a feature, you need to test it. I gave a little tip earlier on writing a little backend, but another way, I don't just mean integration tests and unit tests. I also mean in your workflow, write tools, have AI write tools for you to help you test whatever you're building. So one example I can give is I asked AI to write a script to automate building and installing the app called Build and Install. So I was working on forking the Android test orchestrator for a feature we had to build for screenshot testing. And the Android test orchestrator is actually a Bazel code base. And the way the Android test orchestrator works is it's an Android test services APK and an Android test orchestrator APK. And you have to have your app installed, and then you have to send an ADB command. And the way Bazel builds it is it's in a zip directory, and you have to unpack it, send all those via ADB, then run the special shell command to execute your test. You can tell it's a bit complicated, but I just had AI write this script for me that did all that. And then I said in the agents.md file, use this script when I want to build and install it. And that was it. Then I used it from now on, and then everyone on the team can use that tool going forward. Obviously AI can write tests for you. I don't really have to explain that too deeply, right? You can have it write a test for the new feature, but you can also ask it to write a test that proves a bug was resolved. And also, if you're completely out of ideas, you can also ask AI, hey, how do I test X or Y feature? But even beyond just regular unit testing, if you're building a new backend service, for example, we used AI to help us write scripts to load test our backend. So as an example, right, you ask AI, hey, write a script that submits a series of APKs to the backend for testing load. Then you can run that script in different places. You can have AI orchestrate doing all this to help you with testing. So next, executing tests. So I don't know how many people here have ever executed a single test class using Gradle from the command line. We got one person here. Oh, a couple. Okay. It's like Gradle module. You have the whole module name, then you have the --test, then you have the entire test name. It's super long. Well, with AI, you can just say, hey, can you run that test for me? And then it does it for you. Another one I do too is hey, can you run the PR checks for me? So you might have a complicated CI that does many different steps. You can have AI just run the specific tests that are run only on PR checks. Another one, writing commits and submitting PRs. Has anyone ever used AI to write a commit message? Okay, we got a couple people. Yeah, AI writes way better commit messages than me. And I'm also really lazy at writing stuff. So, it's not going to... One thing I really realized when it writes commit messages, it doesn't know oftentimes the purpose of why you're doing a change. So if you tell it the purpose, then it usually writes a really good commit message. But you might also have conventions on your team of how you structure your commit messages, right? If you have a test plan in your PRs, or if you reference the issue tracker. So if you have things like that, write them in your agents.md file, and then from then on, your AI will follow all the conventions like it's another member of your team. Another one I often ask AI to do is to rebase branches for me, and even resolve merge conflicts for me. Works really well. Another one too, like removing a specific commit from my Git history. I hate doing Git reflow and all those things, but AI can be pretty good at it. I will warn you though, it can also really screw up your commit history. I've experienced that a couple times. So yeah, always have a way out, or just do it manually sometimes. Another one is slash commands. I don't know how many people have used these things before, but once I found out about this, it's a huge time saver. So slash commands are like bash scripts, but they're scripts for your agent, and they're written in English, which is even better. So you can create a slash command that creates commit messages, pushes a branch, and creates a PR for you, all in one commit, in this case, slash commit push PR. I actually copied this from the Anthropic code base. Yeah, you can just find it in the Claude code base, and I'll just go through the example right now of what it is. So this is the slash command. You can see it's written in plain English. It has allowed tools at the top. So if the tools are not in the list of allowed tools, it's going to prompt you for permission to call those tools, which can just slow it down. If you know you want to commit something, just go for it. The other thing it does is it has a context, right? So it can understand what your current changes are there. And then it has a task, right? Create a new branch if you're on the main branch. Create a single commit with an appropriate message. Push the branch to origin. Create a pull request using GHPR create. And you have the capability to call multiple tools in a single response. You must do all the above in a single message. Do not use any other tools. Do not send any other text or messages besides these tool calls. So yeah, it's all in English. I do mention here, it says create a pull request using GHPR create. So GH is GitHub's command line tool. It's much better than using like MCP. I don't even know if GitHub has an MCP, but this allows your agents to interact with GitHub directly, as long as you're logged into GH. I'll get into more tool things you can do with GH. So diagnosing CI failures. Has anyone ever asked an AI agent to diagnose a CI failure? Yeah, okay, we got some nods. For me, when I started doing this, it's been a huge time saver. I would say it works 50% of the time, but the way it works, you ask it, hey, can you fix this CI build? Wait, what happened to my slide? There we go. And it calls out to GH. Just need to drink some water. Okay, this one's already open. So yeah, it calls out to GH. It uses GHPR checks. GHPR checks returns like huge JSON responses. It's not really human readable, but AI can read JSON, so that's great. Okay, I feel better now. Continuing on, one thing I really wish AI could do, and if anyone has a tip on how to do this, was can you check in 5 minutes that all my PR checks worked? And if not, fix them for me. I asked it to do this, and it just like echoed something to the terminal. And the echo actually goes nowhere because it's not even output in the Claude shell. But yeah, that'd be really cool. Another thing you can do, which I experimented with, is you can use this agents thing where you give the AI a persona and then specific tasks. So, for example, you can create a CI investigator agent that investigates CI issues and doesn't solve them, because oftentimes you want to double check what the agent thinks is the reason why your PR failed before having it take action on that. And if you have a persona that can only check things and not take action, then you don't have to repeat yourself every time and say, check this only, don't resolve it. And you can create these agents using the /agents command in Claude Code. Okay, so the next one is addressing PR comments. So I often have AI address PR comments, and I don't mean replying to people in the GitHub PR and giving them answers. I mean, hey, can you, if someone comments on the PR, you should use this function instead of this function. AI can use GH command to read that comment it knows what line it was commented on, and adjusts the structure of your code to reflect that. Or, yeah, rebase your PR and fix the merge conflicts. Okay. The next tip is MCPs. So MCPs are Model Context Protocol. I know people might have different experiences with AI here. So Model Context Protocol is just tools for AI. That's as simple as it is. If you can link your Claude code or whatever it is to an MCP, that gives it context to call other tools aside from command line tools. So one tool you can give it, for example, is reading documentation. Obviously, AI agents can go on the web, they can search things, but the MCP document, there's this MCP called Context 7, and it gives the AI agents a much more structured way of finding documentation for what you need. For example, if you want to look at the Sentry docs to understand how to set something up, it can find the information much faster than searching through the web. Or you can ask it, if you're implementing a new feature, for example, in Rust, and you don't know how Rust works, it can look up the documentation for Rust much better than searching through the web. Similar to that too, you can also have AI write documentation for you, but that's a different topic, not really related to MCP. Okay, so yeah, we talked about implementing code, testing code. Let's talk about planning, right? Issues, tickets. One really cool thing is that you can have, with MCPs, AI agents can interact with Jira, Linear, whatever issue tracker you work with. I've actually been really upset lately because my Linear integration with Claude Code isn't working. So I have to copy paste my Linear issues into Claude Code like it's 2024, and it's really annoying. But yeah, so you can connect your agent to your issue tracker. You can ask it, hey, what issues are assigned to me? Sometimes ask it in the morning, hey, what issues are assigned to me? What issue is the easiest to fix? What should I work on next? So you don't have to ask your manager or deal with the UI. I find issue trackers, yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone has an opinion on it, but issue tracker UIs are just not so fun, and just typing it in the command line, for me at least, is way easier. And aside from just looking at issues, you can have it resolve issues. So you can ask it, hey, can you link this PR to this issue and mark it as in review? Or even better, you can just say, hey, can you implement a fix for E203? I started doing this, and then basically all my GitHub or my Linear issues became prompts for my agent, which was pretty fun actually. But what's interesting is if you think of your Linear issue as a prompt for an agent, it actually becomes a really, really good issue that anyone on the team can pick up. And if you write all the context for your issue in the prompt, essentially like just don't assume anything, which, you know, oftentimes you're on a team, someone says something, hey, can you take care of that issue? You write like a one-sentence issue. You both know what that means, but that's not enough context for everyone in the world to understand. So if you write your issues pretending the reader has zero context, it becomes a really good issue for everyone on the team, and also for your agents, and your agents can pick up tasks and just do them. All right, and then the next one is debugging stuff. So I don't just mean debugging in production code, but also if you're testing a feature. You built a new feature and you want to know how it works, you can have your AI agent just spit a bunch of log messages throughout your code base to help you understand that the feature you built is actually working, or unzip a zip. If you added a feature, for example, that adds a text file with a version code, you can have it add a line that pauses for 60 seconds. So you could unzip the zip file, check that the text file is actually in there, and then continue on with the code base. Or you can have it trace the code path to a specific variable. And aside from that, you can also have it fix bugs. I mentioned MCPs before, so Sentry has an MCP. Obviously, I have to plug the Sentry MCP, so this is the plug. The Sentry MCP gives you access to Sentry issues, crash reports, things like that. You can also query projects, organizations, and you can list and create DSNs for projects. So if you're setting up a new project, it'll just tell you how to set that up. But even better, you can invoke Seer, which is our AI agent debugger, to automatically fix issues. retrieve the issue status, and you can even use the MCP to create a PR using the AI agent. And yeah, gives you context. So yeah, talking a little bit more out here, it's also available in our UI, so you don't have to invoke it via an MCP. It's just on the right side next to a bug. In Sentry, you can just click a button and it'll open a PR to fix an issue. Okay, so my next tip about AI agents is clearing the context often. So context windows are limited. You might have heard this, but what does this actually mean when you're writing code? And what is that auto compact thing? I don't know if anyone has ever seen that auto compact thing, doesn't know really what it's doing. So you have a context window of a certain number of tokens. Every token is a number of words, sentences, whatever. As it fills up, I mean, you can't send more than the limit of your context window as a request to an agent. So the way that a lot of these code terminal agents, whatever, work is they basically compact your conversation. Compacting your conversation is essentially summarizing it. So everything that happened up to that point is summarized. When you summarize something, you lose information, obviously. Let's say you had a really long system prompt or agents.md file. It might lose the information in that agents.md file if the conversation is compacted or summarized. So what you want to do is just clear as often as possible, because this will help the agent not get as confused often. If you start doing a different type of work, or you switch branches, or you start working on a new issue, clear the context window, otherwise the agent's going to get confused. Just as an example from last week, I was working on an issue, and then I asked the agent to switch to a different branch because I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, I'm going to start working on this thing. It switched branches, and then it started applying the fix that I had on the other branch to the new branch, and I'm like, whoa. So yeah, what I should have done is clear the context window and then switch the branch. Another thing, too, is the bigger the context window, the slower it gets. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So my tip number 21, you are the main thread. And so there's an opportunity cost of not running tons of agents in the background. What do I mean by that? So you can run 4 different agents. You can have 4 different terminal windows open, running, doing different tasks, working on different PRs. And before, this was never a problem. If you're wasting your time, you're wasting your own time. But now, you're not just wasting your own time, you're also wasting the time of all the possible agents you could have been running. And here's a graph kind of to illustrate that I got from the Claude Code website. So yeah, if you have 5 agents running, you could be solving 5 different things at once. So yeah, how do you do this? The one thing is you can work on multiple repos. Sometimes I work on the CLI in one terminal window, and I work on the Sentry backend in a different terminal, and then I just switch back and forth while the agents are running. Another thing that you can do, I asked someone on our team who was really at the top of that list of Claude agents token usage. I asked him, well, how are you using so many tokens? He was using like 3 times as many tokens as anyone else. And what he told me is he checks out Git work trees for the same repo, and then he's working on multiple branches at once. Git worktree, it's essentially a shortcut, or not a shortcut, but it's essentially just checking out the repo multiple times. What a Git worktree does is it just enables saving space by not having to check out the repo. Like if it's a 10 gigabyte repo, you don't have to take up 30 gigs on your hard drive. It's a little bit optimized. But yeah, Git worktree is essentially like checking out your repo multiple times. Okay, so yeah, now that's basically a little summary of how you can improve and optimize all the different parts of your development lifecycle using AI. A lot of these tips I found on the Anthropic website. They have a really, really good blog post on Claude Code best practices. I also wanted to plug some really cool upcoming Sentry features. If you're interested in them, please come talk to us, including size analysis, so understanding if your build increases or decreases in size with every PR. We also have build distribution, so being able to send a build to your designer with the latest changes you made really easily using a QR code. And then we're also going to add snapshot testing, so make it really easy to send all your composed previews to automatically test them. And yeah, there's a bunch of companies that are using Sentry. And yeah, if you want some stickers or 3 months of free Sentry, come visit our booth. We're also hiring. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. Thank you, everyone. Question right there.
Yeah. So a lot of your prompts, you say, can you do something? You're not saying do this.
Oh yeah, I don't know. That's probably a quirk of just me. What I'll say is I don't know what the best way to prompt an agent is, and there's been some studies that if you're really rude to an agent, it actually performs better. So yeah, don't take me as best practices. I try to be nice to my agent because who knows if in 10, 15 years with our AI agent overlords, they're going to get back at you for being mean back then. They're collecting all our data, so yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, back there.
It sounds like we engineers are really pulling to agents what's like the token usage per month for an engineer?
Like number of tokens?
Yeah, just the cost basically.
Oh, the cost? Well, I don't know. I don't have like an overview of cost, but I would assume it's. I think we do pay on token usage. Like we don't have like a plan, and it's definitely at least more than 10 grand, I would say. But I don't know. Yeah, question here.
Thanks. So you said like you showed the development cycle, but have you used it for like you're picking up some new feature? So you have a conference page for that feature. You build analysis, you give it a ticket, or with the help of AI, and it's actually bringing that into like a analyst studio or anything like that, and implementing that feature and creating PR. So all of these things, like you ask AI, have you done that, and what is like your experience of it?
Oh yeah, like all the things I mentioned, I've either done myself or someone on our team has done. So yeah, I mean, it works well. I will say the more complicated the task, the more specific you have to be about how you want it done. But yeah, for all the examples I did, except for like where I mentioned that AI goes off the rails, it really worked for me.
Even picking the UI design, Figma design.
Yeah, well, I'll say most of I haven't done too many front end changes myself, and we're not working on Android UI on our team. So well, yeah, it's mostly like web stuff. But yeah, a lot of our team uses Cursor or Claude Code to do that stuff, and it works really well. Yes. Anything else? Cool. Then thank you, everyone. I'll be at either here or the Sentry booth, so come say hi, and thanks.